So, we're back with another episode of AI Right, and Megan and I are delighted to be joined by the data science lead at Edrington, Matt Higgs. Matt, welcome to the show. It's nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
How's it going? How have the two of you been?
Yeah, good. Like I said, enjoying the weather, enjoying the bit of sun that we've had up here. It's been
I think the last time I spoke to you, Chris, or the last recording we did of the podcast, I was just about to have my little girl start nursery, and we were talking about how sick I was going to be. I have been exactly as sick as expected, and I've just got the tail end of a sore throat, which I'm sure is coming across superbly on the podcast.
To be fair, I think my business partner Darren, he's got a 6-month-year-old, and he was saying the same thing. He's been loaded with the flu recently, and he thinks it's
Tough.
because it obviously he's caught something from the baby.
I've got a 2.5-year-old at nursery, and we did get very sick at the beginning, but recently it's been all right. I think his immune system's like bulletproof now.
Catching up.
That is the most optimistic view that I've received from parents in the last few weeks, because everyone's been telling me, oh, by the time they get to school starting, you'll be fine. I'm like, wait, I have to wait 4 years? But I can take it till she's 2.5.
Yeah.
That's all right.
2 years, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
not so bad.
I've got my green t-shirt on. I was up to 1 a.m. watching the Masters finale last night at the
yeah.
golf.
Oh,
So that
exciting.
had me very entertained. Although Steph was like, this morning, I'm delighted the Masters is finished. Pretty much consumed my last 4 days.
No more late nights.
Yeah, exactly. But Matt, we're not, apart from the golf, we're not here to have you on to discuss that. We're here to chat about, obviously, your career and what you do at Edrington, and specifically the role that data science and AI plays across the whisky and the spirits industry. So I thought we'd open up the floor for you to give us a bit of an introduction to who Edrington are and maybe some of their core products and brands that probably a lot of listeners will be aware of, but maybe not know that they sit within the Edrington organisation, and obviously what you do for the business.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. So I'll start with Edrington. So the Edrington Group. So in a way, Edrington owns there's a few different companies, or the Edrington Group has acquired quite a few different companies. And that comes from the acquisition of different brands, but also more recently buying up parts of our supply chain. So to get that more holistic view, and ultimately to get more control over our supply chain, which is it's quite beneficial, and for us and as a data team, it means there's lots and lots of opportunities within all those different areas, and lots of data that we're collecting from them. So Edrington's quite interesting because it used to be, I don't know if you know the Robertson's Trust.
I was doing my research before this, so I've just read about them very recently.
So way back, because the Edrington Group is quite a few different companies brought together, you're going to have to decide what lineage to follow. But way back, there were 3 sisters called the Robertson sisters, who owned some of our biggest brands, and they didn't have any children, so they decided to create the Robertson's Trust. And that is a trust that donates a lot of money to charity. I think we're talking hundreds of millions since it was created in the 1960s. And it's our biggest shareholder. So a lot of the profits that we make go to the Robertson's Trust and are then distributed around Scotland and the UK, and as we're a global company, worldwide as well. And that really, that kind of history is apparent now in the everyday of Edrington as well. Like the vision of Edrington is to give more. Like that's how the vision starts. Give more by crafting the best ultra premium spirits brands in the world.
That's amazing.
So
it's like
it's
unexpectedly rich lore for a spirits company. I wouldn't have expected that at all.
No, and I think when you come into Edrington, when you learn that, it really does, it kind of changes your perception of the company, and a lot of people are really proud to work for Edrington for that reason, and buy into it a lot. And you get little things like giving more days each year, so you get a certain number of days off to go and do charity work yourself, and that really is ingrained in Edrington, the value to give more. Yeah. So it makes it an interesting starting point to then think about data science and running a business more generally. I mean, if you get really into the details of how we give more, you can in some way link it to profit and then go back to a bit more of a kind of standard financial model that helps
definitely.
drive.
But
data
what's interesting
science.
there is like you've got a new motivation behind all the like optimization problems that would be standard across any business, but you've got a kind of a value driven motivator there.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
nice combo.
It filters down, in terms of the culture. It is very, very much focused on people and integrity and giving, and that bubbles up within projects and initiatives as well. Definitely.
Talk us through a little bit about the kind of opportunity for data science. You talked about the sort of bringing together of the supply chain, giving a kind of wider view. What's that looked like over the last few years?
Yeah. So in a way, coming in, so I've only been at Edrington for a year and a half, and there's been lots of little pockets of things happening. And I've tried to, in a way, map those and categorize them more for my personal benefit to understand, but also so that we can have more strategic conversations about where we're investing in data science. And the simplest split is everything pre-bottle and everything post-bottle. So everything pre-bottle, that's kind of all of our supply chain stuff. And that is about creating ultra premium spirits. And there's lots of opportunities there. And then everything post-bottle, that's more about distribution, sales, pricing, promotion. So things that are probably a bit more transferable across industries. And we're doing stuff in both. I'd say within the kind of the pre-bottle stuff, the supply chain, there's a lot of interest in doing things in that area, but also a lot of challenges. And I mentioned this, in terms of the fact that our products take so long to mature and create.
I loved this. When I was reading up, I loved this part because I'm sort of like the opposite end of the latency curve, if you like. News gets old very, very quickly, and we need to be always mindful that we're as close to real time as possible with the things that we're doing. You're almost at the opposite end, like waiting for a new data point might be quite painful in the business of whiskey.
Definitely. It puts experimentation in a kind of new context. Like it's not a digital product where you can just rapidly try A/B tests and all these types of things. As the data science team, we collaborate a lot with different business units that work within the supply chain. And because these supply chains have been around for decades or almost centuries, there's a lot of established processes or teams in place that we need to collaborate with. We need to understand their way of working, their existing processes, and all of the constraints that exist. Just for example, making whiskey is a very constrained process. And really work with them. I know that's like data science in any industry. You have to work with subject matter experts a lot. But here, we do. I wouldn't say the constraints stop us from doing data science, but we do really need to work closely with the different teams to understand what we can and can't do and should and shouldn't do as well. There's been situations where we're like, oh, we could just optimize this, and someone's like, no, you can't do that.
To what extent is all of that constraint and all of that understanding actually kind of written down and captured in data, and how much does that become your job if you get too interested?
That is a lot of our job. We have within wider technology, we have a team that's focused on business analysis, as we would call it, going in and understanding at a high level what the processes are. But then if my team go in and actually are expected to develop data science solutions, we often have to go over that a lot more and in a lot more detail. And in a way, we are the people that are documenting all those assumptions that sit within people's heads, and ultimately trying to encode those so that we can create models that can be optimized. Yeah.
I was reading when I was looking at the business, and obviously Macallan is one of your probably signature brand.
Yes.
So they were saying that 80% of the flavours are attributed to the cask. And obviously going back to how long you wait for some of the products, I read that one of the most expensive bottles sold was around 2 million, and it was in the cask for 60 years before the bottle was produced. So just to give an extent, but also talked about how the casks are manufactured in Spain, in a particular region of Spain that you guys are obviously in control over. But yeah, obviously when you attribute a lot of the analysis and data points that you're picking up, is it to that level where you're looking at the stats behind obviously the impact of the product from the likes of the casks and the manufacturing process from start to getting into the bottle that's going to have that impact to obviously how consumers are potentially paying up to crazy amounts of money for it?
That in a way, that end-to-end view and understanding the downstream impact of decisions further upstream, that is the holy grail that we're trying to get to, and that requires a lot of work. So within wider technology, we have teams who are developing the systems that enable us to measure the things we need to measure. For example, what whiskey is going into what cask, or what new make spirit is going into which casks, etc., and really building up that picture. And then it's a big job to try and connect all that up. My team traditionally, when it was created 5 years ago, was to build the data platform or the data warehouse where all that data was brought together, so that those types of questions could be answered. Ultimately, if we make this change further upstream, what's that going to mean downstream?
Will you sell direct to consumers, or is it how does that work terms of that?
Yeah, we have a team that's dedicated to direct to consumer. Yeah, but the traditional model is us selling to distributors. Though we are again trying to get a better understanding, because our our distribution chain, let's go the other way, has grown significantly over the last decade. Getting visibility of actually where our products are going has been a big challenge, and we're getting better visibility of that, and that ultimately enables us to understand where are the best places. I mean, with whiskey, and particularly the more ultra premium brands, supply is very much constrained. There's a lot of demand out there, but supply is very constrained. So one of the most impactful decisions that we can influence as a data team is where we send our very limited supply, and a lot of effort has gone into aiding that decision over the last decade. Yeah.
So again, focused on that sort of distribution and the post-bottle part, what are the kind of external data points that you're interested in as a business?
So ultimately we sell through outlets. So this might be restaurants, bars, hotels, just as one set of places where our products can be sold. And ultimately we want to know that they are the right places to sell our products. And you can be quite data driven. You can look at sales for different outlets, but again, it takes a while to get that feedback loop. But a lot of the decisions are based on trying to find outlets that we feel align with our brand, and ultimately maintain that brand equity So, for example, only selling in the best Michelin-starred restaurants. And there's been a lot of effort recently to really try and understand what types of outlets are out there that we're not aware of, that would be good opportunities to sell in the future, in a way that ensures we maintain that brand equity, that perceived luxury almost, of our top brands like Macallan. Yeah.
Obviously, a big part of what we do in the podcast is talking about how AI impacts your business, or how you implement sort of AI solutions as maybe as part of your team. Where does that currently sit, and have you been able to make the use of like large language models, maybe more from a brand perspective, so for designing of your bottles or things like that, how AI sort of imagery might have impacted currently, or is it just at the moment, is it kind of doing a bit of R&D and seeing where it can sort of have an impact on the business?
Yeah, I mean, when you started asking, I was going to say it depends on how you define AI. But yeah, in terms of large language models, so I think the opportunities that are popping up are ones that are probably popping up across every company. You know, we as the data science team will have different business units coming to us and being like, can we use AI? So, for example, the legal team in spirits industry, there's lots and lots of very strict legislation across, you know, all the different markets that we distribute to, and the legal team has to try and process all these quite frequently updated, huge documents on legislation, and that seemed like a good opportunity for exploring whether we could use some LLM-based technology. But you know, it's evolving so quick. It's like, you know, initially we're like, okay, let's build something quite sophisticated, and now it's like the point where, you know, if you've got a Microsoft license with Copilot, you can build things like SharePoint agents, where you just dump all the documents in a folder, do a bit of prompt tuning, and see, you know, maybe that's enough. So it's kind of like always got with, I think, with the technology, when it's evolving so fast, quite quickly make decisions on whether it is worth building something custom yourself, or, you know, if you have a good feeling for how this technology is progressing, sometimes it does make sense to wait. You know, you're constantly seeing things within Microsoft and Copilot where they're feature updates that are just wiping out whole custom solutions in like one day.
I find it's quite a good and increasing test of your network in a business, because we're getting to the stage now where a team doesn't necessarily need to consult you to get started playing with some of this stuff. They probably would benefit hugely from doing so, because you'll be able to guide the decision about, whether they need something a bit more than what the market is just selling them, you know, straight off the shelf, or the best way to implement it, or the best way to make sure that it doesn't go wrong. Are you starting to find it challenging to make sure you're like included in the discussion in that sense?
It's interesting you say that. So, yes, but I've made strides, I'd say, over the last few months, 6 months, to be more involved in those conversations. You know, I think as part of technology, you know, we started seeing a lot of requests coming through from the business, about whether they could use particular tools, or whether we could turn on particular AI functionality for existing tools, because most of the tools that people were already using were introducing like a chatbot, and they're like, okay, great, can I use this chatbot within? And so we needed to really think about, okay, what was our policy for these types of things? What advice could we give to people? And it's interesting as well, because, you know, for me, evaluation or evals is like the most important thing. Like, because sometimes you set up good evaluation and you realize you don't even need AI. Like, so that's really the kind of been the starting point for me and my team, just thinking about, okay, how would we evaluate this technology, whether we buy it or build it or whatever, and is the current solution already meeting the underlying needs and performing okay? And if not, will something happen in the next 3 months that mean it will? And we just need to wait.
I'm grinning away because I have this like slight tendency to make a prediction that our jobs are just going to become evaluators. That's what we'll become. We'll stop doing the building, or we'll have fewer opportunities to do the building, and we'll just be answering the question of, does it look too risky? Does it look like it actually solves the problem?
I think we just become IT. I think that's what it is.
The AI support desk.
I've been thinking similar, because obviously it's good to make a distinction between the requests that we get from, I'm going to say the business, but obviously we're all the business, but people outside of my team, people outside of technology, and tools that we're considering ourselves. We use coding assistants, and within the area of data science and BI, things like Databricks assistants, and some people in my team still do quite a lot of development in Power BI, and there's Power BI Copilot, Copilot within the context of Power BI. And so we are really trying to understand what our future roles will look like too. And there are tools out there. So we've historically invested a lot of time in pulling together creating the data platform, as we call it. And in a way, that's now means we have good opportunities for experimenting with these types of tools. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Databricks Genies, but it's quite easy to connect up to data sets that we have in our data platform, and build proof of concepts, agents to chat to particular data sets. And we're now really thinking about, okay, what needs to happen to actually make the jump from just a data set to a agent interface that actually performs well and answers questions that need to be answered. With the caveat, is this the best user interface for this data? Because maybe a nice Power BI dashboard actually is sufficient, and we don't need to do that. Maybe, or maybe it's something else. Yeah.
Just on the same theme then, so obviously you talked about post-bottling and pre-bottling, obviously the product and price and branding and all the different ways that you can use models to support decision making or support the production of the product. And then obviously I was asking you about how you can incorporate AI within your kind of ways of working at the moment. But given that obviously how your production process of actually making the product, and because that's a business that's been in existence for a couple of 100 years, is there any ways in which you think that it's maybe not happened yet but AI can impact it, or again it's fundamentally just supporting processes that have already existed for a long time?
So I'd say the most impactful stuff we're doing often is framed as an optimization problem, and I think.
Can you explain that to me? Do you mean in terms of optimizing the process of building the product, or more like optimizing the price or profit?
Everywhere really, but within the bounds of constraints. So it's constrained optimization. So just for example, deciding how best to use the stock that we have. So if we have hundreds, thousands of barrels, the liquid in those barrels could be combined in many, many, many different ways to, you could, for example, use all the liquid now and create lots of bottles of 10-year-old Macallan, or you could wait another 20 years and create a few bottles of 30-year-old Macallan. And it's those types of decisions. So how can we use the stock that we have to decide what's the best way, to decide how to combine it to create the products. And ultimately with that particular piece, there will be financial forecasts that are driving it. So it's like, okay, this is what we're hoping to achieve in the next few years. Can the stock that we have actually be used to achieve that? That's one example. And then on the other side, it's a post-bottle. How do we allocate that stock across different locations? I'd say there's still a bit of work to be done in that area. Ultimately, we want to estimate some kind of ROI, return on investment, at a regional market outlet level, and then use that to drive optimal allocations of our stock. But there's still work to be done to really get a good estimate of ROI across all the different locations that we do sell or could sell.
I guess what you're basically saying is that the target variable, there's work to be done on even like getting that to a good state of accuracy and fidelity before you solve the data science optimization bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Fun.
So my team, I kind of skipped over the interview of me and the introduction of me and my team. So in a way, we're the data science team, AI team, data engineering team, BI team. We do a bit of everything. I say more than a bit. We do everything. We have a lot of other teams that deal with the source systems. But we are the team that brings it all together. And there's big initiatives within Edrington just to ensure that we are collecting the data that we need to collect to make those types of decisions. For example, when we send out stock to a particular distributor, we have to ensure that they send back accurate data saying on where they actually sent bottles to.
It's a sort of facet of data science that I spend quite a lot of time emphasizing the importance of to my team. Like, you can complete a project in terms of delivering a model or creating some kind of fantastic product, but also a good outcome of a project can be clarifying the data requirements and saying where actually this target variable is not known to a level of accuracy that actually enables all of these different use cases that we could do in the future, and getting data scientists to see the value of that kind of work, of that kind of uncovering the spaghetti mess of data source systems. I don't think it's definitely glamorous, and I don't think it's necessarily the first choice of some teams, but it's definitely valuable.
I think in a way sometimes when data scientists move from more junior to more senior positions, they realize all of that stuff and how the quality of their models or the likelihood of success of a data science project is dependent on everything that comes before it, and the whole data collection process and working operational processes that it sits within. So a lot of the stuff we do is really going back and trying to understand, is the data actually ready yet to deliver a successful data science project.
Next, I wanted to take us on a bit of a detour. I'm desperate to make this a true crime podcast. Chris knows we've talked about this a bit. And I'm also aware that's the first opportunity that I've seen actual crime meets an industry expert that we've met. Have you been following the whiskey cask fraud stories?
Oh, I haven't. I heard about it.
So close.
If you'd let me know in advance, I could have watched it and then had some comments. I heard about it, and it was on my watch list, but I haven't actually watched it yet. Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it. I haven't. I
Yeah.
have to admit, I'm just aware that there is an opportunity here in terms of people are selling casks or claiming to be able to sell casks and making a large amount of money fraudulently off the back of it.
Yeah. So just to kind of build on that, there's a lot of work that happens within the industry to identify that type of fraudulent activity.
This is
and
exactly where
Yeah.
I wanted this to go. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of I'm tapping away at something that just vaguely interested in the authenticity question and how you actually, you're obviously a large company with a big history that other people could try and make claim on, or you will, I'm
Yeah.
sure, have the opportunities across your supply chain for people to try and introduce, non-authentic goods and products. So what kind of things are you doing there to work on the
Yeah.
authenticity challenge?
So ensuring there's a clear picture of the lineage of a bottle is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
important. And in a way, owning more of our supply chain enables us to do that more. And there's that side of it, but there's also the fact. I mean, because that's often what people pay for. They pay for the story, for the history of that bottle. And so owning more and more of our supply chain means we can provide more confidence of that this is the lineage of this bottle, but that also helps with brand perception, because that they'll want to actually potentially go to where the casks are made and where it's matured and where it's distilled and all these types of things. So that really helps with that. So good lineage, clear lineage that could be linked to a particular bottle. There are also methods for testing, chemical analysis of particular products. And here's where it does get interesting, because there's very each measurement device has particular errors, etc. But there's very specific. If you get really into the details, kind of where a product sits within, let's say, some dimensions of chemical attributes, then you can really kind of see how products evolve over the years as they're sitting in that cask, and really see how they're changing at a chemical level, and it's very, very challenging to synthesize that. It's something that only really happens from decades within a cask.
That's amazing. I'm really glad I asked that question because I thought you were going to laugh at me. But yeah, very
No,
much.
it's a huge part. We ensuring the authenticity of products is huge for an industry like this, where it gets a stamp. It needs to be Scottish whiskey made in the way that Scottish whiskey is made, and it needs to have sat in the barrel for a very specific number of years. And to make a 10-year-old, you can only mix whiskies that are older than 10 years. There's so many constraints, so you really have to provide good evidence that it is what it is.
I always like to try and find ways that data folk can make themselves out to be superheroes, and I think we found another one. Making sure that
Thank you.
the heritage of Scottish whisky remains fully supported.
Have you got to know the industry well in Scotland, Matt? Obviously, so I've done some recruitment for Edrington and other kind of whisky brands across Scotland, and there seems to be a big appeal from the market when opportunities to come and work for signature brands come up. But probably see, I think it's locally it's a big industry, but not so much for data professionals within those companies. Do you think there's more and more need for spirits and whisky manufacturers in particular to bring in data and BI and engineering teams to supplement their kind of success as a business?
Yeah, I mean, I believe we could do more with more people. It's like in any industry. We need to keep up with how things are changing and how we can best use technology to solve our problems. I think the impact, the direct impact that has on a competitive advantage can vary across industries. But I think it's as important for ours as it is for any other big manufacturer, with its own nuances. In terms of getting to know the whiskey industry, we had some nice work trips. Like when I'd started just going up to the Highland Park distillery, so that's one of our other successful brands up in Orkney, and really getting to see how the whiskey is made and go through the process was nice. And we do a lot within Edrington
and tasting at the same time.
Yeah. And there's a big initiative in Edrington for learning and development, and to ensure that everybody has an understanding of how our products are made. So it was nice recently to go out to Great Western Road, where a lot of stuff is bottled, with my team to really see what are the processes underlying the data that is generated, that we're often processing and analysing and feeding into tools and applications. I feel at a kind of personal experience level, but also just understanding the data in a bit more by having that whiskey industry specific domain knowledge has helped a lot as well.
It's an enjoyable world when you can couple data sampling with sampling.
Whiskey sampling.
Yeah. And I mean that's a huge part. Ensuring quality control, let's call it that, is huge.
Good way to put it.
Does it always have to be you personally, or will you allow other people to?
Depends who in the team has performed well. No. So a lot of people can actually sign up if your sense of smell is good enough. You can sign up to be on the sensory panel and go along and sample. You sniff generally. But even if you sniff enough whiskies, you can be over the limit. So you have to be careful.
Right? I didn't know that.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But quality control is obviously a huge thing, and how that data is measured varies from actual chemical analysis of samples, visual analysis, sensory, so smelling, having a range of them. There's a lot of statistical tests that happen. This isn't us. This is more the kind of traditional quality control team. But there's a lot of statistical testing that happens where a variety of samples will be sniffed, and you'll need to mark which one you think are which products, etc. And that's just happening day after day, all the time on all our products.
So I guess it's a whole load of additional kind of success criteria before you get to the sales point, before you get to the point of a sale or price point where you can judge the quality or the performance of a product.
Sorry, just a topical question while we're on that. Do you think the human element would be taken out of that? Do you think we'll get some sort of robot that can take the sense of smell on the whiskies?
I don't think it will. I don't think it will.
Maybe the QA team is the safest at Edrington.
I mean, it's interesting to counter that. How you experience whiskey, the taste that you taste when you drink it, depends on your environment. So if you are sitting in a room made of wood, you will think that the whiskey tastes woody. So you have to take that into account. But we obviously do testing in a very controlled
environment. No, sorry, I confused you there, but no, Matt, it's been absolutely super interesting having you on.
That's been great.
Learning so much about the product and the business. So thank you very much. It was good to see you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Cheers.